Hello, I'm Jamon. You may know me as Tingy the Artist on Instagram or Zaha_TTA on TikTok, but that's my real name. This will be the intro to my channel, the first kind of, not first, but it'll be the third. It can't be the first, but it'll be kind of the main start and the overall direction of where I want this channel to go and my aim with it. I don't have recording up. I'm just going to record my voice over a screen recording I'm doing on my iPad. It'll be better anyway because I'll be able to speed up the footage and maybe the quality will look better. I'll just transfer it to my computer and do what I need to do editing wise there. But my last videos, if I can pull them up for myself. Yeah, my videos, my first one was drawing basic shape and form, and then drawing basics form, shadow, and perspective. Shape and form are what you want to start out with. That is what I want to explain more in depth in this video, and the second one more in depth, and this will be kind of the third one, but its own actual path leading off into whatever, if you can understand that. It's been 9 months since I've uploaded a video, so I'm hoping to get this out pretty fast and hoping that this method that I'm doing, everything separate, will be a bit more organized. That doesn't matter for you though, it's my job. But anyway, shape and form. You say you can't draw, that doesn't make any sense. Anyone can draw. It's a learned thing, just like any sport, any other hobby or habit. And the basics of that are shape and form. Shape, I'm talking about 2D polygons. Everything is built up off of basic shapes. If you have a pencil, that's a long, thin, stretched out rectangle, triangle at the point, and maybe a square at the back for an eraser. You would add other simple lines through that. Not through, but like, you want to draw the edges. You know how a pencil is hexagonal. You would draw the edges on that, so you would draw 2 more lines inside that rectangle to show the depth of that angle. It's all about using shapes on top of each other to add depth, perspective, and eventually shadow, highlights, and all that other stuff. Form is just the upgrade of shape. Form is that shape in perspective. So if you have a rectangle and you turn it into a form, you have a rectangular prism. And that's a 3D object. That's something you can look at from different angles and get different pictures from. That's shape and form. Now, when you add form, shadow, and perspective, you have that 3D object. Now you want to make it look real. You want to add depth, where shadows hit, where it gets close to something else, where it's getting blocked away from the light. You want to draw the light opposite of the shadow so you see the light coming in and casting a shadow. Light doesn't come in and makes things darker, it makes that side or whatever it's hitting brighter. You want to follow that pattern and do the opposite on the other side. And there's more in-depth shit with shadow and all that. Perspective is just where you're at looking at that form, looking at that 3D object. Say you're at one corner, say you're at the bottom looking up, say you're at the top looking down. Say you're inside in a hallway somewhere, you're seeing 2 different perspectives. That's a 2-point perspective. You're seeing down one hallway, down the other one, because you're at the corner, at the intersection. You can do a lot of crazy stuff with that. But I hope that was a good enough in-depth guide to basic shape, form, shadow, and perspective. Now, you use all these things along with color eventually, if you want to use color. Art is up to you. I decided to use color I know I still have to get better with it because it looks kind of weird, but I like it. It feels like a progression for what I usually do. So, shape, form, shadow perspective. We're gonna start off with this. I'm going to hide every layer except for the line. And come in bit by bit to show you each piece. Will be edits and all that good stuff. Okay. You can see that. Did I get rid of the other? Okay, I got rid of it, but I'm gonna do something special just for you. I'm gonna rename this guide. Can't spell, I'm kind of lifted, but hey. Let's set that to red. Okay. Now I want you to imagine this grid. I'm gonna make these lines a bit thinner because that's ugly. But almost done. I'll pop it back up when I make it. Okay, so we have that grid over now. This is what's known as a fisheye perspective. This is what I did to try and get this. To get what I got. So a little bit. Alright, so remember what I told you. Shape. Okay. Yeah. What was I saying? Shape, form, perspective, shadow. And what else did I say? Let me see. Hold up. Hold up. Where we going? Where we going? Yep. Form, shadow, perspective. Shape. Okay. Go to user shapes. Let me go back to that screen. Myself. Want to use your basic shapes to build up your characters or whatever you're drawing. See how I built up this character with basic shapes. You're plotting your lines down, spacing out the eyes, keeping in perspective where you're looking at. It's right there. Alright. You are looking at a cube from a bottom-up perspective. That means you, this little guy right here, your view is on this cube, from the bottom up. It may be floating above you. It may look like this. That's what it may look like. It just be a big cube on the ground. And you can kind of get that classic 2-point perspective. See here, since you're also viewing at this edge, see down here. You the viewer, not you the target right there. But you see what I did with all these buildings. I used basic shapes. Basic shapes at first. Rectangle there, rectangle there, rectangle there. All these rectangles, squares, triangles, all that. I should have used references for buildings. I shouldn't try and make buildings from your memory because you just get weird ass ones like this, but I was going for something weird and futuristic, so I didn't. I need to get better with actual architecture, how things are made. You should get better with the things from your real world. Get better at drawing them, memorizing them. That way you have a visual library to store and you can just do things freehand. That's what I need to get better with. Excuse me, I had a burp coming. But yeah. You eventually turn those shapes into forms by adding sides and depth to them. Stack them on top of each other and do all that. Like I said, adding little supports, walking area, all that. See, I add a little bit of detail, try to make up my own language, see if you can decipher that. Put them in a little bit. So I added all those things to get up to a point where I could have just the line. Show you that. I'll just turn this layer off for a second. Adding all those shapes, forms, perspective, bending them, adding additions onto them, got me up to this point. Now I have the line. Excuse me. Now, I think it's called line depth. See how there are different thicknesses to the lines. You have thin lines of the hair, the kind of bold lines at points where they pop a little bit. You kind of want that to stand out. Thinner lines for details, thicker lines for some shadows too. Face is kind of the most towards you because of that fisheye perspective. You're getting less of the feet, more of the face. Kind of the buildings, they warp around like an orb, I guess. Where was I at? That's right. The boldness of certain lines highlights certain objects, things that you want to bring more to the, bring more attention to. You just want to keep that in mind when lining. You don't want all flat, skinny lines because then you just have this, I guess, stick drawing, I guess. Looks like something you made off MS Paint. It doesn't look that great. Okay. Maybe I'll go into how I designed this character, inspiration, all that in a later video, but I want to keep this short. I'm at 23 minutes already, and I'm not trying to edit an hour-long video like I've been doing. So next, you have your line, you have your objects, you've built up your background. I can explain that later also. Now you want to add your midtones. See if I can get that. All these there. Alright. Now, you would usually do these one at a time. I'm just going to splash them all on here for time's sake. So, you want to do these bit by bit. You saw how they all came in certain groups. You have the skin, the hair, the clothes, the background, the buildings, the foreground, the grass, the porches around that. I wanted to put more in here, but I didn't really feel like it. Could have done better certain places. I'm gonna do more of her anyway, but yeah, I would usually start off with grays for the midtones. So say I was doing the hair right here. Bring this all back. Turn this to turn to aqua. That was on the hair. I would come in with a gray for this. Scroll to it. Oh, I put it in with the skin. I didn't do it separate. I usually would. Anyways, I would come in with the gray. Right. Then I would alpha lock. My bad. I would choose my selection tool. I'm on, what's it? Procreate for iPad. Would do that. Trace around the edges. This is really bad. I'm just going to explain it without trying to do all the visuals. But I would come in, highlight all of this gray, go to alpha lock on here, and I'll use my selection tool and go around everything I just alpha locked. And what it should do is paste the colors I want around a certain object. So say I was doing the hair over the gray, I would do that the color I want. Then the skin, I would do that the color I want. Top, so on, so on, so on. I would keep doing that for everything. So I would have all the mid colors. The mid colors are the colors before shadow and highlight are applied to them. They are the middle there, the mid tones. Then I would usually start with the shadow. Shadow doesn't always have to be a flat black. It can be different colors. You get bounce shadow from different objects that are around you when you're in a lit area. Say you're somewhere, say you're under like a sandwich shop, a little overhang, say it's orange. You're not going to get, of course, bright white light that's coming from the sun. You're going to get the light that's hitting that orange overhang. It's casting a bit of a shadow because it's really blocking most of the light, and the light that's glowing through that is going to be usually orange. You're going to be a darker tinted orange. Get everything else in here, all the shadows. Alright. See how all these shadows just aren't grays and blacks and all that. You're adding depth, you're adding texture, you're adding where the light is actually hitting. You want to try and capture that as good as you can. Have that in. Yeah, I'm really not going to explain my drawing techniques right now because I just confused the fuck out of myself trying to. Gonna glide through this. We're gonna do our best. There's I got everything on. It looks like everything is on. Try not to touch anything. Put the windows on. Same thing with the highlights. If you saw me add all that. Well, not the same thing, but it's the opposite of the shadows. Where that light is hitting, you want to make it brighter. You want to do that by layers. You may have 1 or 2 different layers of highlights. You may add the highlights together, although that can get confusing and will lead you to more work. So you may not want to do that. Kind of good to keep separate layers. But you're adding those highlights, you're adding onto your drawing. You're focusing on where that light is actually hitting, so you're not just adding random lights anywhere and like doing whatever to your drawing. Drawing is all about knowing your basics, putting your basics together, practicing, and then continuously practicing, which I have to work on. And then just keeping in mind how they're getting hit by light in their space, whether or not you're using color or just tones in general. I don't know where I'm leading on with this. Hopefully that was a good explanation of how I got this, how to draw, how to put all the basics together, and eventually get something similar or better than this. That was really quick. That was 30 minutes. Nice. I may do this method more. Yeah, thanks for watching. Again, my socials are Zaha_TTA on TikTok, Tenji the Artist on Instagram, same thing on YouTube, but with underscores. Twitch, same thing. Trying to go live and do more shit, but I'm inconsistent. I'm trying to do better with life, you know. Thanks. See ya.